And welcome to another edition of Where Are They Now, where we talk to past Corsair greats about their careers as a student athlete at Umass Dartmouth, what they are doing now since graduation. Pleased to be joined this afternoon by a recent Hall of Fame inductee into the Corsair Athletic Hall of Fame in 2019, a two-sport athlete in track and field and soccer. From the class of 2014, Krista Chauvin. Krista, thank you for joining me today. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Yeah, pleasure to be here and chatting with you.
Well, it's certainly when you talk about some of the greats in Corsair athletic history, your name is right at the top. We had the pleasure of meeting last year at the Hall of Fame induction ceremony, which seems eons ago, given the pandemic, but a great chance to celebrate your amazing career and that of your fellow inductees. So I'm going to jump right in and just talk about the early stages of when you were in your formative years as an athlete. What were some of the favorite memories that you had growing up and certainly during your high school career? And what were some of the things that you did to prepare yourself to take that next step to collegiate competition?
Yeah, for sure. So probably ever since I played, t-ball all the way, I played boys baseball growing up all the way until I was like 17 years old. So that really had me be like a competitive person. And I knew that I wanted to play college athletics. I wanted to get to the highest level that I could. But as far as memories from like high school and what I really missed about that, my senior soccer season at Seekonk High was so fun. I had a great coach. I had great teammates. I was captain of the team at that time. My best friend was one of my defenders, and that was awesome to play with her. We had one of the best seasons up to that point in our history. Since then, they've done amazing, but to that point, we had done really well. So that was awesome. That was some of my favorite memories playing soccer. Track meets. I really missed dual meets and relays. Those were super fun, and we didn't have dual meets in college. Yeah. So I never got that, in college, but those were so fun with my teammates. You just do your event and then you hang out for a little bit. I would say a couple other ones are qualifying for nationals. After my first season of doing shot put, that was something really special. In my first year as a junior, I made the Nike Nationals. My senior year as a state champion in discus, which that's like every high school athlete's dream was to be a state champion. So that was probably one of the highlights as well. Did you ask about preparing for college?
Yeah, what were some of the things that you did to prepare to take the next step to compete collegiately?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Honestly, I feel like at the time I thought I was preparing well, but now I look at it and I'm like, there's nothing I could have done to prepare me for college athletics. It's such a different breed. No matter what level you're at, everyone's the high school stuff. Everyone's the high school all-star in college. Everyone's the all-star. You're all so good. But at the time, my priority was to prepare for soccer. So I did a lot of running.
Really?
So because soccer was fall, so I graduated with track, started preparing for soccer. So I did a lot of running. Hate running, so that was miserable. Just did a lot of running to prepare, but really. Not too much else. I think I played in some men's indoor soccer leagues just to get used to really good competition. Some other women's soccer leagues around the area. I think there was one on the Cape I played in, and I went to a camp during the summer that year. But that was pretty much it before I got into that.
What was the big rivalry? You mentioned the dual meets, and certainly you had rivalries in track and field. You certainly had them in soccer. Who was your big rival back then?
In track, I feel like it was probably Old Rochester, and I feel like DR was just good at everything.
Yeah.
But I think Old Rochester was probably one of our big ones. We had, I think my junior and senior year, we had a night meet, which was really awesome, and not many high schools get to do that around here. Yes, and I remember it was Old Rochester, and we did that because it was, they're a really good team. And one of the special events we did was a jelly donut relay. And all the throwers and the coaches from both teams ran a 4x2. And in between, right before you ran your 200, you had to eat 3 jelly donuts and then run your 200.
Okay, Mike Salem and Steve Gardner are going to be watching this going, what's going through Jim's mind right now is, yeah, that's an event he could get into. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I
it's
like
great.
that. I like that. That would make me an All-American too. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, it's very rare these days to see a multi-sport athlete at the collegiate level. And it's certainly more uncommon to succeed at such a high level that you did in both. What were some of the similarities and some of the differences you encountered while getting ready for each respective season of play?
Yeah, so I think I learned pretty quickly that the similarities are just the hard work and dedication that you have to put into them to be on such an elite level are second to none. Um, so, just I wanted to remain dedicated and just consistently prepare and train to be the best. I just always wanted to just do everything that I could at such a high level. And I think I got that from like playing with the boys in, as a young girl.
Yeah.
I just always had to, prove myself. And so that like just really drove me to succeed. But differences, I think just like soccer was definitely more running based. And then track was more lifting heavy. So those were like the differences getting ready for each season. But other than that, like just the work ethic and attitude, they didn't waver between both. I wanted to be the starting goalkeeper and I wanted to be an All-American hammer thrower, and that was just all on my mind.
Yep. So you knew what the goal was right away, and you just worked to strive to succeed at it. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Well, you started a little bit north of the South Coast when you graduated from Seacock. You went to Stonehill, but it wasn't long after that you decided to become a Corsair. What were the biggest factors in your decision to make the decision to transfer? And what's the biggest adjustment, because you're at a scholarship level at Stonehill and a program, and I'm certainly familiar with the background, having worked there and having worked with Karen Bowen and the program she built. What was the biggest difference that you had to make from being in a scholarship situation at Stonehill to going to compete for Steve Gardner and the amazing staff at Umass Dartmouth?
Yeah, so this is a great story. I love telling it. So while I was being recruited in high school, I made a decision that I wanted to play soccer and do track at whatever school I went to. And honestly, I gave up some, half rides and full rides to do that. I wanted to make the most of my time in a situation. We all know college athletics is, you get your seasons of eligibility and that's it. So it's kind of a one-shot thing. And I wanted to make sure that I had fun and I was doing what I loved at, whatever level that was. But that being said, regarding my reason for transferring, actually prior to my sophomore year, like, a week or two before school started, I was actually cut from the women's soccer team there. So not many people know that. They wanted me to focus on track, but I had made it clear I wanted to play both sports no matter what. Even if that meant sacrificing the scholarship, I didn't care. And that's what happened. So, at the time I was devastated, a lot of tears, but truly a blessing in disguise. And, I have an attitude and a mantra, and it's been consistent throughout, my college years and my adult life, that everything happens for a reason. So
Absolutely.
Once the tears cut out, I moved myself home. I think I took a day and went to Six Flags with my brother just to have fun and get away from everything and don't not worry about training or any of that. And one of my childhood friends, we'd gone to school together, I think from first grade on, except our freshman year in college. It was Joe Texera. He was a football player and a javelin thrower. And I knew he was at UMass. And, I think I sent him a Facebook message and I was like, hey, how's the program at UMass Dartmouth? Because I knew that he was throwing, and, him and I were, pretty good athletes at Seacock High, and I trusted his judgment. And, he said he loved UMD, he loved the track coaches there. And, I was like, okay, cool, sounds good. And I think within 48 hours of getting cut at Stonehill, I had applied, met with the coaches, got accepted, and 5 days later I was starting preseason there. So that was pretty crazy.
That's a crazy story. I mean, just the short timeline of that, because
yeah,
in mid-August to to late August, and And you've completely changed scenery.
Yeah.
That's
And
incredible.
yeah, really different campuses too. Stonehill, just super vibrant.
Yes.
And UMass Dartmouth, I personally think it's super beautiful, but it's definitely, a diamond in the rough. You have to look for those beautiful spots. They're doing so much now, I see as an alumni all the work they're putting into it, but I loved it when I was there. I thought it was awesome. It was super unique. So that was pretty cool. But as far as adjustments, the only thing that really stunk was I couldn't get housing for preseason for soccer at UMD. So I had to commute every day
Oh,
from
from
Seaton.
sea. Wow.
Yeah. So that really stunk. It did make me a morning person for like a month. So that was cool. That has not stayed with me. But I was already in shape from Stonehill. So I just had to wait like a week because all the preseasons are different on all the levels. So I had to wait like a few days to start. But yeah, once I was there, it was just a matter of getting the job done, getting adjusted, like finding where my classes were, and then just making new friends and new connections.
Like you said, I mean, UMass Dartmouth is a beautiful campus, having worked at both schools. But I mean, you think about where you competed in, even at Cressy and even with track, where the track is, it's just so stunningly beautiful there. So
Yeah.
it's an adjustment on campus because you can pretty well walk everywhere at Stonehill, but you need maybe a little car or a bus ride to get around UMass Dartmouth a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's talk about your achievements on the soccer field a little bit. You had 11 shutouts in goal. You're first team all Little East and all NSCA all regional. What's the toughest part of being a goalie? And what was the most enjoyable part of being a goalie?
Oh, yeah, this is great. So I started playing goalie because, as I said earlier, I hate to run, and so when I started playing soccer, I was like, "Oh, goalie, they just kind of stand there and they just stop the ball. That sounds cool." So that was what got me into it. But as far as like sticking with that position and what I liked about it, I really enjoyed the leadership aspect of it. I could see the whole pitch. I could read the game so much different than even my coach on the sideline because I had everything in front of me, and that was great because I really enjoyed controlling my back line. I could read the game. I could anticipate things really nice from back there. I loved making saves, jumping in the air, flying, as I called it. You also get to be a little more physical than, a defender or a forward out there. So you're kind of like the quarterback, which I enjoyed because I could do a little more and probably not get carded as opposed to someone like hitting me. So
Get away with a little bit more?
yes. And I'm a high school official now. And so I keep that in the back of my head as I'm watching those goalies.
There you go.
Yep.
Yep.
So yeah, that was probably what I loved about that position. Uh, I really never found it to be hard. I just really loved everything about it. As far as like what would maybe be tough about it, playing in cold games or games that
Oh,
was snowing
yep.
because you're not moving around a lot. So
No.
a lot of cold toes during those games. That was tough.
Well, my wife still plays goalie in indoor leagues, and she says that's the best part about playing goalie. She plays goalie too, and she says the same thing, that the goalie's the one that can get away with the most hits and not get called for it. So
Yeah.
absolutely. So
Protect yourself.
you two are kindred spirits with that. Absolutely. Your track and field resume is one of the most impressive and impeccable in school history. You're a 10-time Little East champion and at the regional level as well. And you earned the ultimate title of being an All-American. You still hold school records in both the hammer and the weight. What pushed you to the most to succeed when the spotlight shined the brightest?
Yeah, so yeah, I mentioned this a couple times about playing with boys and when I was younger, but I just really enjoyed winning and being competitive. Like I said, I grew up playing t-ball with boys. I have an older brother. I was always trying to get in on their practices, and they're playing catch and just going out and playing ball. I try to get in with them, and but I had played with the guys since T-ball to like I said, 17 years old, played in the local town league. And I always had to work twice as hard to prove that I was half as good. And that was something that just like stuck with me. So that attitude, that drive, that continued on into any other sport, because that's all I knew. All I knew was you have to outwork everybody in order to prove yourself. I also wasn't on a lot of like great teams growing up, and my brother was on a lot of great teams, and I envied that. And I just was like, I want that. I want to do that. What do I have to do to get there?
Sure.
So, those were the things that kind of drove me. And I honestly don't like wasting time. You have certain things in life that are finite, and time is one of them. I don't like wasting time. So if I'm going to do something, I'm going to give it everything I have, do 100% to try to be the best that I can be at it. So, when I realized that with the hammer, that was something that I didn't do in high school, and that I had made such great progress in it in such a short amount of time, I knew that, I just wanted to throw far, and I wanted to throw it for as long as I could. And my goal at the time, when I was like starting out throwing hammer, my goal was to be an All-American. And then once I achieved that, I was like, I want to try to qualify for the Olympic trials, which I did get pretty close at. But
Yep.
The journey was incredible, and I wouldn't change any of that for the world.
Well, you talk about hard work and time, and I think a lot of times in this day and age where, the advent of technology and so many other different things going on, people think that, they have so much of it, and they really don't.
Yeah.
And, life lesson that's well taken. The one thing the pandemic has given us is time, but in some respects, it's taken a lot of it away. So
Yeah.
I think what you said is just such a great lesson for any athlete going into any endeavor that they have. That it is about the time, and it is about the work, and you put both in, and you get the results.
Yeah, absolutely. There's like a few things I think of whenever I want to do something in life. Does it make me happy? Does it help me grow? Does it make me stronger? Is it going to benefit me in like a holistic viewpoint? And if it doesn't, then I probably choose to not do
Sure.
that thing. But yeah, I love the time is finite, and it's when you think about that, like you can make more money, you can do all those things, but you cannot get your time back. So
No question. And it sounds like one of the lessons I've learned and have tried to live by is you enjoy the moments before they become memories.
yeah.
And that really speaks to what you just said about take the time but enjoy it as well, because you never know when the moment's going to come again.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the thing. Absolutely. Describe that moment when you knew you had become an All-American.
Yeah, I really like, it's so tough now, and I feel like old because I barely remember any of it. But what I do remember, I remember looking at the board. They had like a name board. It would show your name and your throw, like the distance of it. And so that would constantly update as people were throwing. So, I remember looking at the board with my name on it after the final thrower didn't like advance past me. So, it said I was in 5th place. And that's the moment when I knew. I was like, all right, I got it. Sweet. Like, this is great. This is what I came here for. So that's what I remember. Just like feeling of getting the job done. That was super satisfying. I remember running over to Coach Darren and Coach Gardner, and I was just so happy because, I took care of business. And that, that's what I wanted to do when I got there. And it was a little bit delayed because my sophomore year, I finished 9th in the outdoor championship. So I missed All-American by 1 spot.
Mm-hmm.
That was so tough. So, I worked hard after that. I knew what I had to do. And then I came in, and I remember I was just like, Dad, this is just any other meet for me because I'd been there before. So,
Sure.
yeah, that was just so fun. And I mean, Coach Gardner and Coach Darren were just so great to travel with. And anyone that's ever been in a van or a bus with them or a plane with them will tell you how great that is.
Well, you'll appreciate this story then, because when George Papoulis finished as the national runner-up in the 800 indoor last year, And that seems eons ago.
Yeah.
I had the privilege of interviewing George and Coach Salem and Coach Gardner. And I asked George a question and he answered it in about 45 seconds. And then I asked Mike a question. He answered it in about, another 45 seconds. And then I asked George a follow-up. And then I asked Steve a question. And it was just one question and it ended up being about a 5-minute answer. So back as I'm trying to put this on social media, George came over and said, "Hey, I saw the interview, but my clip is only like 45 seconds, a minute long, and Coach Gardner, how come the clip is so short?" I said, "Coach Gardner talked for the allotted time I could put on Instagram, George." And he started laughing right away. But you're
Oh,
right.
yeah.
I mean, you cherish those experiences because
Oh,
they've had such a great impact on everybody.
yeah. And Coach Gardner and I keep in touch with him a lot. He's a great mentor of mine, great friend, and very, very lucky to have those. And extremely lucky to have spent the time I did with Coach Darren. When he was with us.
Absolutely. You mentioned about the almost qualifying for the Olympics, which is the ultimate goal. But you also had a unique experience of being the first Corsair to compete at the Penn Relays, and that experience in itself had to be amazing. What was it like being in the competition with all those other world-class athletes?
Yeah. That was really great. Um, I remember I actually requested to go to that meet, so it was really special that they allowed me to do that, and they set time aside to make a special trip just for me to get to that meet, because that meet was such a great preparation for the national championships that would have been coming up a few weeks after that.
Sure.
So that meet really, it really set the tone for me in my mental space that I can compete at whatever level now. Like I knew that I could before, and sometimes it's those little things that make a big difference. But I remember going back a little bit. I remember I was coached by Frank Mooney at Seekonk High,
Mhm.
and he taught me that the only thing that mattered on meet day was who showed up and who actually competed. My first big meet at Seekonk, I remember it was probably like the winter relays, like one of the first indoor meets at Reggie Lewis for the season. And I looked like a little toothpick compared to all these huge throwers all around me. And I must have had a look of shock on my face because Frank Mooney pulled me aside and, he said, "Hey, size doesn't matter. You can throw far, and that's all that matters. Is who can throw the
Mhm.
farthest on that day." And I won the meet by like a ton. And so that was something that stuck with me. So it doesn't matter if someone's bigger than you, smaller than you. It doesn't matter if they're D1, 2, or 3. You can compete with anyone on any given day. It's all about who shows up.
Sure.
So to me, that felt like another meet. But like I said, it was to prepare for nationals, which was exactly what I needed. So I really knew that I could compete with anyone and go to D3 nationals a few weeks later, being a piece of cake.
And it set the tone. Absolutely. It set
Yeah.
the tone for the next big chapter.
Yep.
You've talked about several individuals who I know who are very special to you. Your coaches at Seekonk, certainly Coach Gardner, and the staff at Umass Dartmouth. You had a very special relationship with the late Darren DeAndre, and I know you spoke about it at his memorial service. What did Darren teach you about being the athlete and later the person that you've become?
Yeah, I remember my first meet with Coach Darren. We were at, I think it was Tufts, and I was super excited for that meet because I was like thinking, "Oh, I'm gonna break the school record." That was one of my first goals when I got to UMass Dartmouth, was I want to break the hammer record. And so we're throwing up. It's a cold, rainy day, and my warm-ups were terrible. They were god awful. And Coach Darren grabbed my hammers and just, I'm in the line to warm up. I'm like 5 throwers from the front circle getting ready to throw, and he takes my hammers and he walks away. I was like, "What is wrong with this guy? He's crazy." And I get out of line and I walk up to him. I'm like, "What are you doing?" And he said, "You're not being yourself." "What do you mean I'm not being myself?" He's like, "You are not the Krista that I know right now." He's like, "You're not having fun." He's like, "At practice, you throw far, you're with your teammates, you're having fun, you're laughing, you're joking." He's like, "Look at you right now, you're so serious." He's like, "Stop it." He's like, "Hang out with your teammates, then go back in line and throw." And then I broke the record after my first throw.
Mhm.
And so that was one thing that I probably didn't realize in myself. Like at that time, I was just like, I just want to be competitive. And he just taught me to have fun with whatever I do. You know, he knew that I did my best when I was having fun, and that's something that stayed with me in sports and in life. You know, I always try to have a lighthearted attitude. I always try to crack jokes, make people laugh and smile when I can. And he also taught me to take a lot of pictures. So
Yes.
yes, that is something that he taught me. And at the time, I reluctantly did it. And I think we were in Claremont, and he was like, "Oh, Krista, get a picture in front of the Hollywood sign, and take a picture here." And I was like, "Ugh," you know, I felt like he was my embarrassing dad. I'm just like, okay. Oh, you know, I reluctantly did it, but now like I get it. I get why he said that, and so I try to take as many pictures as I can now. And some of my friends may be annoyed by it. Whatever, don't care. They mean so much in those memories when you can't think of them anymore.
Well, that's the thing. Those are moments that you
Yeah,
documented, and that's a great lesson that's a great lesson that you've carried on.
yeah.
Um, After you graduated from the university, you completed your graduate studies at Gardner-Webb, and that gave you a rare distinction of being able to compete at every NCAA level of play, 1, 2, and 3. Um, what made that? Uh, what made your Division III experience at UMass Dartmouth different from the experience you had at the other levels at Stonehill and at Gardner-Webb?
Yeah, for sure. And that this experience of being able to play at all three, like not something I set out to do. I don't think many people say I want to play at all three levels. So
Yeah,
super unique. I don't know how many people have done it. So it's really a special thing that I've gotten to experience. I'm really grateful for that. As far as Division III compared to any of the other levels, I felt like Division III was a true balance of ensuring, or like a true balance of academics and athletics, which at the time is exactly what I needed. They really did a great job of ensuring the student part of student athlete was taken seriously. Um, it was, like I said, it was really balanced, and I really enjoyed that. I got to play the sport that I loved. I got to have fun, and I got to focus on my academics and try to, you know, have my grades be as best, you know, at the level that they could.
sure.
As far as Division I, it was definitely heavy, way heavier than 2 or 3 on the athletic component. You know, we'd have like 5 a.m. weights, we'd have position practices, film, team practices for soccer, and then track was, you know, some of the most intense and in-depth weight training that I've ever done. And the throws practices were so detailed and very diligent with what we were doing. And you know, we'd have, if someone needed study hall, they would do that. I'm sure they, you know, we had that at Umass Dartmouth too, but those were pretty heavy with the study halls at, you know, Division I. And
Yeah.
I I honestly was super lucky because I only had 2 classes a semester, and they were online. Like my grad program was online when I was there, so it was really easy to manage that. And seeing my undergraduate teammates do all of those things on the athletic side while managing full course loads, like they work their freaking butts off. And
Yeah.
you know, I don't know if I could have done it. I mean, I probably could have, but I'm so blessed and thankful for my Division III time because it was a real balance. And I wasn't stressing my head off ever. You know,
Yeah.
I didn't have that stress level that I would see in some of my teammates at Division I. But you know, they were truly incredible for doing all that. Um, yeah, I really, like I said, I believe everything happens for a reason, and I I believe that I waited, whatever it was in the universe had me wait until, you know, the end of my athletic eligibility to go D1, because it really allowed me to kind of find myself and set myself up for academic success and mature, you know, mentally and physically to be able to handle that lifestyle,
Yeah.
which was really nice.
Well, 2 words that you've said often during our talk has been balance and fun.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like, and sometimes people take that for granted when you're an athlete, that, you can have one or the other, but you can't have both. But I think in Division III, it certainly allows you to do that, to have that balance, to have what Coach Darren said, go have fun with your teammates, but you can still compete. So sometimes it's a business at the other, at the other end of the spectrum. And but you've had that unique experience of being able to take a peek behind the curtain of how things work at all three levels. So I'm sure that's defined other things, other aspects of your life as you've gone on.
Yeah, absolutely.
How did a UMass Dartmouth education prepare you for life after graduation?
I would say so I was a psychology major. I didn't have a minor or anything like that. But it really taught me just how to think critically, how to see things from all different types of perspectives, how to kind of do, your diligence, your due diligence, and research things, and be able to create just an informed view and perspective on things. So that's kind of really what it taught me. And then the amount of research that I did during my time at UMD really prepared me for grad school and the course loads there. So that was really great, and really thankful for that. And if any of the psychology department is watching, I really enjoyed all of my professors there. They were great. And I truly use my degree every single day with whatever I'm doing in my life. So I'm very thankful for it.
We're definitely going to make sure the psychology department gets a shout out for that. Absolutely.
Good.
Absolutely. What career path have you taken since graduation and since your graduate studies wrapped up?
Yeah, so another kind of just crazy story. I've been working in higher education for the last 5 years within campus recreation, which traditionally falls under student affairs. This was not something that I seeked out. I never said, oh, I want to be a campus rec professional when I grow up. This is like kind of something that, the way that I've seen it now, usually people will start working for their campus recreation department when they're in college, and they kind of fall in love with it, and then they end up finding career paths that way. So before I graduated Gardner-Webb, I knew that I wanted to keep throwing. I want to throw post-collegiately. I want to stay down in North Carolina and train with my coach and my team there. The only way to do that was to get a big girl job and support myself. So I remember, I think I was home for a little bit, and I told my parents that I wanted to stay down there, and they said, yeah, as long as you can support yourself, that's fine. So I remember I was on the plane in Providence and just started Googling jobs in sports around me, and it was around the area there. And I remember I saw a job pop open for Limestone College in South Carolina, and where I was living in North Carolina bordered South Carolina, so it was really close. And so I think I ended up, I applied probably within a month or two. I interviewed and was hired. So I actually was hired before I graduated with my master's degree. So that was pretty great. So I was the director of intramural sports and summer conferences there. That was like my official job title. But I remember reading that job description, and I was like, oh, that sounds cool. It's close by. It sounds fun. It's got sports in it. I think I can do that. So that was my, that was my dipped toe into the pool of kids. It was a really small school, and I quickly learned that I didn't know anything. I had no idea what I was doing, which now I realize that most adults don't know what they're doing in life. We all kind of just start faking it, which
nope.
Yeah. So that was, that was really eye-opening, but I liked what I was doing and I wanted to learn more. So about a year after that, I started looking for other career opportunities, and I found a position at Ashland University in Ashland, Ohio. And that job title was Assistant Director of Programs. So under programs, this was within campus recreation. It was, I would oversee the intramural sports, the club sports, the community programs, the personal training program, and the group fitness classes. So I was like, whoa, that would teach me a lot, So I did some research, found that they had a really a well-rounded campus rec program. They were heavily involved in a lot of different things in the NERSA, the campus rec professional world. So I ended up, interviewing there, and I loved it. I had an amazing time at Ashland's. My colleagues were phenomenal, and it was the perfect spot for me to grow and learn more about the campus rec profession. So now I am the assistant director of competitive sports for Penn State University, their main campus. I have been here for 10 months now, 9 months. My first day on the job was March 16th. And
wow.
If that date triggers you,
Wow.
it's that's when all the students were sent home, right?
Wow. Yeah.
So yeah,
Yep.
I've not worked a day in my office since I started.
That's
Yep.
that's amazing. It's funny you say dates like that. I'm like, yep, that was the day.
Yeah, everyone cringes. I'm like, ooh.
Yeah.
But yeah, I this career is awesome. I get to have an impact on students, and I'm around sports every day. So those are two things I'm really passionate about. And yeah, so that's it. But I'm sure there's a small cohort of people that have started jobs around the pandemic time, and I think we should all get together and talk.
Well, it's amazing because I actually our athletic digital media coordinator Molly O'Halloran, who's done a fabulous job. She started in our department on March 23rd, I think. So she hasn't, we haven't played a game, and it's just, kind of been, it's like, being thrown in the deep end of the pool. It's like, now what do we do? And
Yeah.
it's I think during the pandemic, and I'm sure you found this out in your new role, is that there's no book on the shelf that you can pull down and say, okay, here's what you do in the event of a global pandemic.
Now there is.
Now there is. Yeah, it's being written. It's being written as you go along. So
yeah, and that was kind of nice for me because I was really nervous about starting at a big school. I knew when I was going to school, I didn't want to go to a big school. And working at a large institution like that was kind of nerve-wracking. It was exciting for sure, but definitely made me a little nervous. But it was great because I kind of got like a really slow transition into everything, and everyone was learning how to do things, which is really nice. But I've told, so I oversee 3 professional staff, and I told them, I'm just letting you know, when we go back to normal, you're going to need to teach me how to do the things that we do in a normal world, because I'm not going to know. So please don't hate me then.
No, I'm sure everybody will chip in and help. Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
You're at one of the world-class universities, so
Yeah, absolutely.
no question about that. You've talked about a lot of different things that you've kind of, lessons you've learned and imparted, and putting that together, not only as a student athlete, but as you've come to this point in your life's journey. How did you balance that, very rigorous schedule, or some of the things you did while you were in school that you still do now, as being a 3-sport athlete? But what are some of the life skills that you learned in home then that you really rely upon now?
Yeah, I will say it was definitely much easier to balance everything at Division III than the D2 or the D1 level. I was encouraged to take extra academic and learning opportunities and take those on when they presented themselves, and there wasn't 4 practices a day. So that was much easier to balance. But I'm a big planner. I like to plan things out ahead of time. And so that was something that, I had done ever since probably I was in high school, because, I had to write all my homework down. I had to write my practices down and my games, and that transition into college. The difference in college was I could get to pick my class times, and I could get to pick when I did things and the days I did them. So that was really nice. But I would say, like, just being very organized and planning ahead of time, having a calendar. My phone is my life, my Google Calendar, my Microsoft Calendar, whatever it is I use. But I put everything in there, and that keeps me organized. But I think the being busy aspect really helped me, because there was no time for nonsense. It was great. I have this, and then I have this, and I have this. So that was really nice, and that helped keep me kind of balanced and organized. But I remember, can't remember if it was my sophomore or I think it was my junior year. We were lucky as athletes, we got to pick classes early.
Mhm.
And I was a little ahead on credits. So my fall semester, my junior year, I remember I only took, I think, 4 classes, and it was 12 credits, and it was on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So I had Tuesday and Thursday off, and that was really great. Get to sleep in a little, go to my work study job. So that was really nice. But yeah, that was really one of the coolest things about being an athlete was you get to pick classes early.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, and for that reason, for that structure,
Yeah.
because I don't think a lot of people really, understand what goes into being an athlete. It's like you still have to do the same work as everybody else, but you're doing it with more commitment on your time and
Mhm.
activities and that balance. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, what are you looking most forward to as we ease out of this pandemic into a post-COVID world?
Probably going to sporting events
Hmm.
again. I have not been to a Red Sox game in a while, so I'm looking forward to get back to Fenway. Um, and then just having our normal big family parties at holidays. I have a really big family on my mom's side. We celebrate every major holiday together. So it's been very weird not having that. So definitely looking forward to that.
I think we're all looking forward to just doing something that I think you would agree that none of us are ever going to take something that, something like that for granted anymore. You take those little life events that, oh, that'll happen again, that we probably won't take those for granted going forward,
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
from the enjoyment. Well, the last question I have is this. What's the best advice that you would give to a student athlete who's just beginning their collegiate experience?
I would say, uh, first your experience is what you want to make it. But knowing that, you need to know that time goes by way faster than you could ever imagine. So make sure you don't have any regrets, but most importantly, to have fun. Enjoy the time with your teammates, your coaches, make as many memories as you can. And lastly, take a ton of pictures. That's my advice.
And that is the best advice that anyone could ever give.
Absolutely.
I am Jim Seavey, the Director of Athletic Communications. She is Corsair Athletic Hall of Famer, Krista Chauvin from the class of 2014, track and field All-American, and women's soccer all-regional performer. So I can't thank you enough for your time. This has just been a wonderful conversation, and you've given us so much insight as to your experience as a student athlete and what impact Umass Dartmouth had on you. I can't thank you enough once again. And I wish you and your family a very Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and Happy Holiday Season. And look forward to seeing you on campus again soon.
Yeah, thanks, Jim, and Merry Christmas to you and everyone as well. I really appreciate it, and thank you for your time.
Okay. Thank you again, everyone, and enjoy a very happy holiday season. And we'll see you next time on Where Are They Now?